In it comes. There goes the shot on goal. It's in. It's in. Jamie Dwyer.
Heavy lifting. Goes up to Graham. Takes the lead. Looks a winner. Draws away from
The Australians have just broken the American stranglehold on this race.
Matt, hello, and thank you for having a chat with me.
Yeah, hello, and thanks for having me.
Look, it's a bit strange to me in a way that an Olympic gold medalist can maintain somewhat of a low profile. I imagine you can walk down the street without too many glances coming your way, but if you're a footballer or a cricketer, which, you know, when we're comparing them to like an Olympic gold medalist, you know, maybe we shouldn't compare, but it's a different story for those guys. Is that wild that you can walk down the street and, you know, remain relatively incognito?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's, in some sense, it's nice. You can go to cafes and whatnot without being noticed, and you can sort of live your life. But obviously, there's certain places that you do get noticed a bit more. Obviously, sailing clubs being one of them. It is strange, and I think if I think about even just people in the same sport that are from other countries that just are not really sporting nations, that how much sort of traction they get and how much more notice they get. So it is a bit strange. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to bringing your story to people, particularly Australians, because it is one which is so worth telling. In a way, it's not surprising because we live in one of the windiest cities in the world, and there's no shortage of water. But you were in a boat from quite a young age, weren't you?
Yeah. Been super lucky that I've been able to basically sail my whole life, really. Since I was about 5 or 6 years old, sort of, I wouldn't say thrown into a boat, but pushed my parents to put me into a learn to sail course after hanging around a yacht club for a little while and watching my older sister sail and my parents sail. So I've been super lucky that this has been a lifetime of sailing, which is pretty awesome.
That's awesome. What was home life like growing up?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate, a loving family. Both parents have been super supportive with anything I do, and sort of giving me anything I need to help progress as a person, as a human. And I have an amazing older sister and an amazing older brother that both been really cool siblings to grow up with. And definitely my brother. We've got a lot of interests alike. So that's been really cool as well.
Oh, that is awesome. I've done a little bit of digging, Matt. And I believe I found a little gem of a story. So you mentioned you've been in the boat from a young age. And the story I heard very recently from somebody that knows you quite well was a story of a kid that just loved sailing. There's something special, I think, about the way that kids communicate their love of things. So I'm going to see if you can finish this story off for me. But I'm going to take you to Singapore, where you were there for a regatta with your dad. I've since found out sailing is huge in Singapore. So for those of our listeners who don't know, and that's me until very recently, apparently you can win like hundreds of thousands of dollars as underage competitors. Is that true in Singapore?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's almost it's probably not healthy in some sense. You don't see many of them at the senior level because I think they get a bit burnt out by it. But it's crazy. I think they have like specific schools for sailing where you sail for 6 hours of the day and you might do a couple of hours of math or English or whatever subject you need to do to tick the boxes. So it's a different world over there.
So you're over there for a week, I'm told, for a regatta in Singapore. You're sailing against these kids. I'm pretty sure you were beating most of them, unfortunately not getting all that money because you weren't a Singapore nationality. But all week you were loving it, having time of your life, and then the end of the week arrives and your dad says, "Righto, Matt, it's time to go home." You said, "Why?" He said, "Well, we got to go and see your mum, see your sisters." Do you know what you said to your dad?
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with it in the sense that, I was pretty happy not to get on the plane and being an adopted Singaporean and live my life over there. I would have been much more happy to do that at about, I think it was 9 or 10 years of age.
So the quote that I'm told, Matt, is when Dad said, "Hey, Matt, it's time to go home," you said, why do I need to go home? I can read, I can write, and I can count my money. That's all I need.
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to sail in Singapore.
I think that's been the sort of the way I've lived the rest of my schooling life as well, to probably some of my teachers' frustration.
I think I just loved it. It sounds like you're a kid. Like it's something, like I said, it's really special. Like you're a kid. You're communicating what you want to do. Like, hey, I'm in Singapore. I'm sailing. I don't need to go to school. I can read it. I can read well enough. I can write well enough. I'm on the water. I'm just going to sail here for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think, probably one of the first trips I did for sailing, and obviously loved it way more than I could have imagined. And it would have been more than happy to do that forever.
That's unreal. You made a decision to pursue sailing as a teenager. I know you loved your footy. You weren't bad at it. There's also a whole lot of other mainstream sports, particularly here in Perth. Your footies, your tennis, cricket. But what is it about sailing that you love, which ultimately made you head that direction?
Yeah, I think ultimately, especially the class of boat that I sail, obviously by myself, I'm single-handed. So that was definitely a massive part of it. That I could go out in the water and be out there by myself, and it was just purely my performance. That was the thing that was really sort of making me go well or not. So I think that was a big part. But I think just being out in the elements as well. I'm an outdoorsy person, and as a kid, I would much rather have been outside than inside. And I think just the fact that I could get out there on the ocean and be out there and sail in some really strong winds like we get here in Perth and really enjoy that was a massive part of that.
I love the, to be honest, and I think I'm one of them. A lot of people struggle with being by themselves. And I'm not talking that transcends a whole lot of aspects, but you are out there. It's just you, the boat, the water, the sun. Is there something special in that for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, that sense of control as well, that it's probably the only time in your life where you can sort of leave everything back on shore, and the only thing that matters is, the wind, the waves, and, the boat that you're sailing. And I think that's really special about the sport that we do. And, sort of as I guess technology has grown, as I've grown up, that, your phones and things are becoming such a daily part of life that, to be able to leave that back on shore and keep that behind you for 3-4 hours of the day is it's just nice to disconnect and get out there.
Yeah, because we are constantly connected. That, hearing you say that is such a valid point. Our phones are almost just a continuation of our person now. I suppose you don't have the obligation to reply to people on the water. They're like, oh, Matt's sailing. Matt's in his element.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a given. If I'm not picking up the phone or replying to text messages, I'm usually out in the water. So, it's a nice little excuse.
I think it's probably pretty healthy too. Which is why, I can just hear it in your voice. You just love, being out there by yourself. I also know from a little buzzing bee, pun intended, for those of us who know, Belinda Stowell is her name. Belinda, you were identified as a talented sailor from a pretty young age. What was it like for you often being the youngest in these teams, these camps, these competitions? I imagine you were often had to sort of maybe grow up quick is probably not the right term, but, you're around older people.
Yeah, in some sense was forced to mature quite quickly. And I think being around they're the older athletes, and I guess I was sort of stuck between generations in some sense in that way that, I was always sort of around people sort of 3, 4, 5, even 10 years older than me at times. And I obviously grew quite quickly, and sailing being a sport where you kind of fit classes due to your size, that I was going into senior or youth classes earlier than most other people were. And I think as well, being in the sport at such a young age, I was just sort of ahead of the curve by a couple of years all the time. So, I think, it's sort of molded me into the person I am today in some sense. And having people like Belinda and Belinda's husband Arthur being sort of de facto parents in some sense that are looking after me at camps and things like that. That just sort of molded me into having to mature quite quickly and get along with sort of the older age people. Yeah,
well, I suppose you did have to grow up reasonably quick as a young guy, traveling the world for these competitions. Mrs. Wearn, I'm hearing, was very protective of her youngest baby boy. You're the youngest of 3, so she went on a lot of teams with you, your mother. I understand she often had to sign the waivers when you were underage as your legal guardian. But what happened when she couldn't travel, Matt? Who signed these forms?
I think the first year I went and did sort of proper overseas events, I was still sort of 16, 17 years of age, and you needed sort of a legal guardian to, I guess, sign your life away to say that you're willing to put your life at risk out there. And when mum couldn't come, I had to sort of look to my coach at the time, Michael Blackburn, Blackers, to would be like, hey, can you sign this form for me at registration? So that was a first for him, I think, that all of a sudden being a legal guardian to one of his athletes.
I'm also hearing that occasionally some of your teammates had to sign it as well that were over 18.
Yeah, there was probably a couple of guys in the team at the time that were probably old enough to be my dad or could get away for being my dad. So, yeah, I think that the same thing, that was a strange one for them. And, yeah, when you look at the results at the end of the day and I'm in front of this person that's just signed their document to be my legal guardian, it was definitely a strange situation.
That's so good. Especially when they're only a few years older than you.
Yeah,
they're suddenly your legal guardian.
Yeah.
Hey, like sport can teach us so much with, which is sort of universal to our lives. I think that's what I've realized the more I've experienced it, and especially when I was forced to stop playing sport. Yeah. Then as I've gotten to know you, I can see, in you how important it is and the way you talk about it. We sat down recently and I noticed a tattoo on your arm. I noticed it pretty quickly. My mind was trying to listen to what you were saying, but I'm like, sometimes when I get something in my head, I'm like, I need to know what this means.
Yeah.
And I was blown away when you told me. The numbers 17 and 28 are written on your arm next to each other. Tell me about this.
Yeah, I think the first thing that people think when they see that is it's some sort of team number. Sort of you see that with the cricketers and swimming and the likes like that. But it's a cool story. Well, it's a cool story now that it's all done. But
not at the time.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously the Olympic Games, in Tokyo, I started pretty poorly. The numbers are my first 2 race results from the Olympics, and with our racing being a low point score series, that a 17 and a 28 in a 35 boat fleet, you can quickly do the math, is not a good thing. So it's a little reminder to myself that you can sort of come back from anything like I did in Tokyo, and that if you sort of set your mind to it and with whatever adversity is put in front of you, that you can chip away and make it happen if you want it to.
That's what I loved, Matt, when you shared that, because like the mind can go anywhere, right? When something goes badly. And I suppose, like, again, like I said this a lot of times on this series, like I was a former teacher, and so I had a lot of exposure to kids who have some hard stories to tell, and perhaps other kids that don't have as hard of stories, but whatever, everybody's story is their own. But some things go wrong, and how easily sometimes they can give in.
Yeah,
this to me is just the perfect example of resilience. Do you look at that on your arm and go like, I can actually get out of anything?
Yeah, exactly. It was a big life lesson for myself as well. That it was one of those things that, like you say, it could have gone 2 ways. Could have quite easily just sort of, like you say, given up and been like, well, I hopefully have another opportunity in 4 years' time. But obviously didn't decide to take that route, but just sort of dug the heels in and went, look, like you worked your bum off to get here and to get to the games. Like, let's not throw this away. And obviously there was the reality of it where just getting back to a medal was probably the goal at that point. But when things obviously started to go really well, then things started to fall into place. It was just like, let's just take this on and run with it.
How quickly things can change. So I actually want to go to race number 1. So when I was talking to Belinda, I said, one of the things I said to her was like, Belinda, I've got all the standard stuff I need on Matt. I need some dirt. And to my absolute annoyance, I mean, it's a reflection on you, but to my annoyance, she had nothing but good things to say, right? But she did mention, she was like, oh, I tell you what though, Mark, if you can find the footage of Matt in that first race when he came 17th, ask him about that. And don't ever relive it with Mrs. Wearn, because I think some expletives were, and then when I say Mrs. Wearn, I mean your mother. Because I think some expletives were coming out of his mouth, and you were visibly frustrated.
Yeah.
Do you know what she's talking about? Can you remember that moment?
Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. I guess to sort of paint a little bit of a picture, it was the first day of the event, and the girls were racing before us, and it was a televised race. So basically that means for us that they race you regardless of the situation with the conditions or whatnot.
Right.
So and the girls are a little bit delayed, so we usually get about an hour before our racing to warm up and get into things, and we had 10 minutes before the first race of the Olympic Games to get ready and start racing. So there was obviously a little bit of frustration with that already.
Okay.
but at the same time, obviously, it was the same for everyone, so you had to get over that. But I probably had a bit of a target on my back a little bit. People obviously hadn't seen us for over 12 months with COVID and the likes like that. So, I had a bit of a target, and sort of people were trying to sort of actively sail me to the back of the fleet a little bit. And I took that, a little bit hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And, I had a little microphone in our little vest that, I probably forgot about at the time. And, a few people sort of decided to try and do a few things, and just a few F-bombs sort of came out here and there. And
is what I'm hearing.
I think, it's just one of those ones where it means so much to you that, you probably forget about what's around you or what you're doing. And
Well, I think from what we said at the very beginning of this conversation, like, you're in your element out there. Like, this is just you and the boat. So it's almost like raw emotion.
Yeah.
But I'm also, now look, I wasn't able to find it. I searched so hard. So I'm going to have to tell Belinda, like, hey, I need whatever footage you've got, because I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But amongst the swearing, she thinks that she might have heard you say, man, I shouldn't, I won't say it, but man, I shouldn't be here. Like, you were getting really frustrated and almost feeling like you didn't belong.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, obviously a big part was, like, this just wasn't how it was meant to go. That obviously, I was confident in the way that I was sailing leading up to the event, and was feeling really good. And I guess in your head, you're like, well, I'm just going to breeze through today. And, I just found it really tough. I was sort of back in the mid-fleet, and sort of battling against people that I hadn't raced against for years, and wondering why that was sort of happening. So it was a big part of it, just like, why is this happening to me now, sort of thing.
Again, what I love, like, is this is what sport does for us, right? Because you had an idea that it was going to go one way and it didn't. And that's consistent with life. So let's actually fast forward slightly, because despite the horrible start, you performed nearly faultlessly for the next sort of 7 races. And you even wrapped up this gold medal with a race to spare. I suppose it's a sort of a two-parter. What did you feel during that 9th race? And then as well during the 10th, when you can do whatever. I saw the replay last night where you just hung out of trouble and sort of hung it back because you couldn't lose, unassailable, right? But during that 9th race and then during the 10th, what were you feeling?
Yeah, it was strange emotions in the sense that same thing, we were sailing on the media course, so we're being televised. Yeah. So we're racing in marginal conditions again. And obviously, I had 2 big scores already, so sort of not on the back foot, but I couldn't afford to have a bad race at all. And in those sorts of conditions, anything can happen. And but at the same time, I was just in that zone again that obviously had done another 7 good races before that as well. And was confident in my ability. And I just remember we just sort of had to keep executing basically and do what I needed to do. And I remember sort of halfway around the course, the guys that I needed to be behind me were behind me and in that race, and thinking like, well, okay, at least I'm in the hunt here to still win a gold medal. And I just remember the Cypriot who was closest to me on the points at that time, just was super rogue and just sailed off to the other direction for no reason at all. And I guess that's the pressure of the games in some way. And that just opened up the points gap, really. And I remember crossing the finish line and sort of having this, because we were quite close to the beach at that point, being close to shore, and remember having this sort of 3-way look with Blackers, who was sitting in the coach's box, and then someone standing up on the rock wall, like one from our team, and then like obviously we were just all looking at each other going like, has he just won? Like what the hell's going on here? And obviously you don't want to be that person that celebrates early. So everyone was just looking for confirmation from each other. But I had absolutely no idea what was going on.
Can we
Yeah, exactly. So crazy emotion, obviously super high anxiety and stress, from the sense of like this could quite easily be wiped away from me. To crossing that line in that final fleet race and going like,
that's it.
Wow, that this has happened.
I'm an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I get chills. Just sort of hearing that. Like I can sort of see it. Like, are you still buoyed by that? Like, I can sort of see it, like it's giving me goosebumps. Like, you're an Olympic champion.
Yeah, it's one of those things that probably at the time I didn't appreciate it that much, but then sort of coming back to Australia and starting to celebrate, and even as these few years have gone past, that you start to go to more events and you get introduced as the Olympic gold medalist, and every time you're like, yeah, geez, I am an Olympic gold medalist. Like,
that's
wow,
pretty cool.
and the fact that no one can take that away from you either is what's so special. That regardless of what happens in the future, that you've got that Olympic gold medal, and that's who you are.
It's amazing. And look, like a huge part of this series is, you know, of course, like we have to acknowledge these external rewards, right? It's incredible that you are, but I've learned sort of from getting to know you that it doesn't make you who you are.
No.
Which I'm looking forward to delving into. Before we move on from Tokyo, I wanted to ask you similar, but same but different. What does it mean to compete for your country as an Olympian? Like, as an Australian, like we're a proud people, especially when it comes to sport. What's that mean to you?
Yeah, it's super special. The honor to go to the games, which, especially for us in sailing, is the highest of, the highest really. That you can't really go much further. And to do that in the green and gold and have the coat of arms on your chest, and to really, be there for Australia and represent your country is just, it's a great honor and a privilege. And it's obviously something you dream of as a kid to represent Australia at any level, and to do that at the Olympic Games. I can't think of anything better.
That's unreal. And something that very few of this population does. So, it's something that you should absolutely be proud of. I think, you know, I will move on to this other issue, which is kind of a fascinating issue, to be honest, because I think a lot of people overlook perhaps the financial burden for athletes in your sort of sport. Now, this isn't, it's absolutely not applicable to all sports. You know, we know full well that some are funded really well, but I'm thinking sort of your sailings, your athletics, your canoe kayaking, cycling, swimming. It's a long list, but the money isn't really there for these full-time athletes, right? And I think being an Olympian, people assume it is. You're like, oh, he's on the TV. He's an Olympian. How has your financial journey been over the years?
I guess initially parents being the biggest backer and the biggest investor into to my career, obviously starting at an early age. And a bit like a few other sports you sort of mentioned there, that there's a big investment in equipment. Obviously there's that big outlay at times. And you obviously get to a point where obviously I'm at now, where the sort of the government funding and the things like that from the Australian Sailing Team and the AIS is there to support that. And obviously the parents don't have to chip in anymore, which is fantastic. But like I mentioned to you the other day, that it's sort of, you get to the end of the year and you're basically looking at the bank account, and if you've broken even, you've had a great year. And that's with winning world championships and gold medals. So
if you've broken even, you've had a great year.
Yeah, pretty much. So
that's wild.
Just the money expenditure is just outrageous. There's a lot of equipment that's almost disposable, in the sense of sails, for example, are almost $1,000 each, and we probably get a week's worth of use out of them. And then obviously no one wants to buy them because they're thrashed. So there's a lot of just spend and not much coming back in.
I think, Matt, like that puts it into context for a lot of people. I think your standard person is trying to save money during the year, right? Like they work their job, hopefully go on a holiday every now and then, feed the family, and then hopefully they've got a little bit that they've saved away. For you to say that, if I've broken even, that's a great year. Like that sort of hits it home for me. That's confronting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's obviously, when you're a bit younger, that's fine. You're more than happy with that. Like, you're not sort of looking forward to, you're getting married and you're having families and settling down, buying property, all that sort of stuff that you need to do in life. But as you get older, obviously that sort of stuff starts to hit home a little bit. And unfortunately, it's the reason why people stop, basically, is that they don't have this financial backing. They want to move on in life, and obviously priorities just shift a little bit.
And we will talk about that. Your lovely wife, Emma. Congratulations, by the way. You married, was it married last year?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, just over 12 months ago.
There you go. At time of recording. So Emma, for those, it is Emma, right?
Yeah.
I did get that right.
Yeah, no, you got that. Yeah.
Belgian sailor.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So you guys do you base yourself in Belgium?
Yeah, so we have an apartment in Belgium, which has been incredible for this campaign with being so close to France.
Of course.
Yeah, so we base ourselves there for the majority of the year, and I basically hop from summer to summer. I don't like the cold weather, so so that's been fantastic. But it's been awesome to do the campaign together.
That is cool. And we'll have a chat about her shortly. But therein lies your relatability to me. I think look, there's a lot of Olympians we'll see on the telly who perhaps aren't as, relatable to your everyday person. They're amazing. Mm-hmm. But you're trying to buy a house with your partner. You're probably thinking about family. So to hear that, it's just makes it real, to be honest, Matt. Like, it makes it really relatable. And I think that's, it's incredibly admirable, the way that you're going about it. I think I've found in life, like especially recently, that we learn the most through adversity. For most athletes, it's injury, which I suppose in a way is true for you, what I'm about to ask you. But let's have a chat about 2022. It's not your standard injury, but maybe we can classify it in that. Things were going pretty well for you up until this point. But then the body decided that it couldn't go. Yeah. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, I guess it sort of all stemmed a little bit from the extra year with COVID in some sense. Obviously 5-year campaign, long time to be pushing hard and training hard. And obviously that meant a shortened campaign for Paris as well. So that time off after Tokyo probably wasn't as long, and it didn't really give me the reboot that I needed in some sense. And unfortunately, just a sort of a series of little illnesses that we'd normally get over. Obviously, one of those, and probably the penultimate one, being COVID.
So you caught obviously COVID, but then suffered from long COVID.
Yeah. So basically, it just turned into that. I was quite fortunate that I didn't have any symptoms. I was asymptomatic with COVID, but the only reason I was testing was just from protocols and being a close contact, and because I was passing all the tests basically to be able to go out and train and race, I was able to go do that. But the long-term effects was long COVID, and then ultimately having to pull out of events, and basically what turned into chronic fatigue at the end of the day.
So tell me how you were feeling with long COVID. So we hear about it, and perhaps a lot of people listening will know someone with it, but what did you feel?
Yeah, I guess my very limited understanding of COVID is that it attacks what's weakest in the body. And for myself, even when I just get common colds, I really struggle with sinusitis and that sort of thing. So it just
even now.
Yeah, even now. Wow. Yeah. So it definitely just attacked my sensory sort of that side of things, that I felt like I was constantly all blocked up in the sinuses, ears feeling completely blocked, vertigo being sort of the biggest issue from that point, that sort of needing to lay down most of the day not to feel like the room was spinning, and and obviously the associated symptoms that come with vertigo as well, with the nausea and all that sort of stuff. So it was a bit of an unfortunate thing to have, especially as a sailor when you're out in rough seas and the likes like that. But so they were my biggest issues, but then it was just the general fatigue that came with it as well.
Okay. So let's talk about the recovery, right? Because I'm going to ask you about a young lady, I think by the name of Julia, from New Zealand. But I think telling an elite athlete that they need to slow down it's along the same lines of the question of, like, honey, does this make my butt look big? Yeah. Like, I don't know if you should be telling an elite athlete to slow down. Yeah. However, there was a brave young lady named Julia who said this to you. Tell me about her, and what she said and how it resonated with you.
Yeah. So I guess we went through a few processes of stopping and then starting again and then having to stop again.
And when you say you're talking about your team, your coaches.
Coaches and the physiologists and everything that we were working with. And it was sort of all scratching our head at one point. And then, through contacts and stuff, we got in contact with Julia, and we basically met over Zoom.
Yep.
And
she's a physiologist.
Yeah, background's in physiologists, and is a physiologist. And she had done a study on long COVID and was working with other athletes that was sort of presenting similar symptoms.
Okay,
so
right.
I guess that was the link, and even just a brief conversation to see if she had any ideas or pathways we could go down. And after about 5 minutes of talking with her, she was just like, "You guys are crazy. Stop what you're doing and go home and chill out for a couple of months," basically. So for someone that had only met me over the internet and through a computer screen to say that and bring that forward was quite confronting at the time.
Yeah, I bet.
But certainly what needed to happen. And both Rafa, my coach, and I just sort of looked at each other and just went, okay, maybe we should listen to her.
This girl sounds serious.
Yeah, exactly.
What did chilling out, in inverted commas, look like for the next 2 months?
It was a lot of streaming services. Just literally laying on the couch. Sleep and nutrition being the big priority, basically.
Right.
Bit like anything, when the body's run down, you got to let it rest and recover, and that was the main priority. I think I was sleeping for up to 12 hours a night, and then would basically roll out of bed and go on the couch and basically nap majority of the day. I was probably getting close to sort of 15 to 18 hours of sleep a day, and whenever I wasn't asleep, I was trying to eat just to fuel the body and let it recover and repair. So did that for about 6 weeks. How
did that sit with you? Like, being told, I'm also somebody that struggles to sit still, but I am not an elite athlete. Telling an elite athlete who is out there every day to sit still, do nothing. How did it sit with you?
I think that was the problem initially before I'd met Julia, was that I was getting told to do it, but I was struggling with doing that. So the urge to go out and go even just for a walk or something like that was just too taxing at the time. And it probably really took Julia to go, hey, look, sort of sit you down like you're being told off like a 12-year-old kid for doing something bad. But to really, for that to sink in and come home that this is what needed to be done. So I could accept it in that sense. But after obviously a week or so of doing that, it was a bit like sort of getting itchy feet and wanting to get outside and do something.
But putting your trust in the fact that this was the right thing to do.
And that was exactly it. Just the trust. I had to have that full trust in Julia that she knew what she was talking about, and that she would help me in the long run. And that I just had to embrace that. And I think that was a part of the recovery process as well, was that ability to let go and just be like, you know what, this is what it is, and I need to get on top of this as soon as I can.
Radical acceptance. Oh,
exactly.
Man, that's a tough concept. What did you learn from this time, Matt? I know that's a broad question, but from talking to you and reading a few things as well, this sounds like a really, really significant moment in your life.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing just being the appreciation for what I had before, and obviously what I've regained now as well, being able to compete for our country and be able to go out in the water and sail and enjoy the elements again. And really, I guess, like we talked about before, being that young kid that just loved the sport. And just sort of obviously this adversity kind of taught me that again, that this is an amazing thing that I do, and I'm super lucky to do it.
Honestly, it sounds like 6, 7, 8, or maybe 9, 10, 11-year-old Matt resurfaced.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Obviously, it's probably been pushed down with a lot of hard work and a lot of results focus. And it definitely stirred a lot of emotions up in the long run, but then, eventually brought out that 10, 11-year-old kid again.
How important, this wasn't something that I sort of envisaged asking you, but how important is it to remember that kid when you're like elite competition? Like you said, it's exhausting. It's, from what I see, it's exhausting. It's never ending. It's constant. How important is it to let that kid back into your life?
Yeah, it's been a big thing, and I think it's ultimately what's gained me the ability to win world championships now as well. I think the fact that I go out in the water and obviously I feel the pressure and I'm immersed in that, and the performance side of things is totally the be all and end all at the end of the day. But the fact that you sort of have this bit of humility to go, look, if I have a bit of an average day today for whatever reason, that's not the end of the world. I'm fit and healthy again, and that's the most important thing. And there's obviously other people out there that don't have that luxury and aren't able to do what I do. So, yeah, being able to go out and compete hard is fantastic. But at the end of the day, if I get it wrong, that's okay too.
That is, honestly, I think that's one of the most powerful messages that we'll hear. That's awesome. Well, you mentioned it there, so I wanted to ask you about the Laser Class World Championships. We won't get bogged down in the details of sailing classes, but am I right in saying you sail laser, or which they've changed the name of recently, haven't they?
Yeah, we'll get in trouble for that one. No, it's been changed to be called the Ilka now.
Ilka,
yeah,
that's right.
It was formerly the laser. Yeah,
sure. So I alluded off the top. You won 3 silver medals. I think were they consecutive silver medals? Yeah, right. So silver. If we're talking about resilience and mental fortitude, for it feels like an important concept to explore, I suppose. Now, take nothing away. Silver medals, that's an incredible achievement.
Totally.
But I do know that elite athletes, you're always looking to win, to be the best. How did it make you feel as the years progressed and that gold proved elusive?
Yeah, it was tough to deal with. And I think as well, like I was losing world championships by 1-2 points.
Oh, man.
So yeah, and on given weeks, like especially the last silver medal I got in 2020, that one I had sailed probably good enough to win the previous 10 world championships as well. And there's just one guy who just, he was just better on the week. Basically, and that was really tough to deal with as well. It's just like, hey, like, can I catch a break, basically?
And it's like something out of your control.
Yeah,
like you've done the best you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else,
yeah. So that was super tough to deal with.
Yeah.
And obviously, COVID rolled around, and I lost opportunities through that. So it was tough to sort of bounce back. And obviously, the first one, you're like, awesome, silver medal.
Yeah,
that's a personal best. Can't complain with that. Then the second one, you're like, okay, that's annoying, but like we're still there. And I think as well, because that second one was in the selection year for 2022. So like that was you sort of had other goals in mind. But then that third one, once I was already selected, and the main thing for that year, apart from obviously going to the games, was to win a world championship, and to not do it was really tough.
Was there a bit of self-doubt creeping in?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. It's, you start to, I certainly started to wonder whether I was good enough to win on at a major event like a world championship. And, even though I had won events and was winning events at sort of same level, but just that they weren't world championships. So sort of just, your European events and things like that, where you're obviously racing the same people, but you're not necessarily, it's not called a world championship. So that was really tough to deal with at the time. And but I think you just sort of have to rely on the processes that you're going to be able to do it one day.
So this is another one that transcends sport, right? But a perfect example. So you've got this self-doubt. Everybody has it. Well, I think everybody has it. I definitely do. I think so many people do. How did you overcome, or perhaps you don't overcome self-doubt. How did you manage self-doubt?
Yeah, I think obviously I had a great team behind me in the sense that, we were able to sort of set smaller goals, and obviously their pinnacle events were the pinnacle events, but we sort of had these little steps along the way, which was fantastic, and that really helped to just be able to sort of bring myself out of that self-doubt at times. And,
so just little short goals.
Yeah, exactly. And even just within events, we weren't focusing on results. We were focusing on different aspects or different targets during that event. And that really helped just to sort of piece the puzzle together, really. And at the same time, just sort of meeting with people like Naam Baldwin, who was another person that I've really sort of lent on the last sort of 8 years or so. And he was really able to teach me sort of, ways of dealing with the pressure and the anxiety of that doubt, and sort of be able to bring back out the performance when you need it as well.
What were some of the things he said to you, like the specifics of how to deal with this?
Yeah, so Naam's background's in breath enhancement training. So I guess sort of I wasn't doing any of that effectively. It was a new concept to me. So that was where we sort of began with all that. And that really helped just from obviously a physical point of view. But then it also just gave me that composure and ability that when the heart rate was up out in the water, and those sort of that self-doubt and that frustration was coming in, I'll just be able to do a quick little process. It would take 2 seconds, and I'd be able to center myself and come back to the moment. And be able
mindfulness, it sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just sort of was starting to polish off and starting to complete me as an athlete.
Cool.
And it was just an area that was really missing, sort of like we alluded to before with the games, where even though I was probably at that point there, that frustration would sink in a lot, and there'd be a lot of profanities thrown around, and a few splashes of water and things like that. Sort of trying to eliminate that stuff out of the equation, that I was just a bit more stable and steady.
How powerful the brain can be, hey? Like, for good and for bad.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing was learning that's your body can't differ what sort of stress is a stress.
Yeah.
It just sort of reacts to it in the same way. So whether it was a physical or emotional stress, it just would react in the same way. And you'd obviously look back on sometimes and you'd be like, well, why do I act like that? Because it's definitely nothing that's life-threatening or anything. So, it was just phenomenal to be able to work with Nam and be able to work on that and bring myself out of that.
That's awesome. Look, we alluded to earlier, your lovely partner, Emma, well, your wife now, a darn good sailor as well. Now, I hope I get all this right, but I'm told she won a World Championships gold medal when you won a silver medal.
Yeah, she ended up winning 2 World Championships before I could win one. So, yeah.
So the moment, from what I'm hearing, they were within like days of each other. She comes home with the gold medal. You come home with the silver medal. What was the house like that night?
Yeah, that was my first silver, so it was easier to deal with.
Okay, there you go.
But it was a matter of hours, or even within an hour, she had won her. She was racing just after us. So she was following us. So I'd sort of come back in with the disappointment, and went and found a screen to watch her on. And at the time, obviously, just super proud. Super stoked for her, and for her to win a world championship was incredible. But there was obviously that certain side that I was just pretty disappointed with myself, and we sort of have that friendly rivalry in the house of she definitely held it over my head for a little while.
Did she give you any shit?
Oh, without a doubt.
Did she?
Yeah, especially before I won the Olympic gold as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It was if there was ever any arguments about who needed to do the dishes or unpack the dishwasher or something like that, it was like, well, I've won a world, so until you won, you're unpacking the dishwasher. So no, it was fantastic.
What a stitch up. Yeah. Absolute stitch up. I like to have a lot of laughs here with you, Matt. But as I mentioned, Belinda spoke so glowingly of you. And I asked her, what was he like to coach? And I think Arthur probably coached you a little bit more than Belinda, but she said he would say the same thing. She recounted numerous memories where you'd finish whatever it was, your race or your practice, whatever you were doing, and you'd make a beeline straight for the coach's boat. And she said he would pull up beside and he'd say, here's what I thought. What did you think? Mm-hmm. Like straight away. She spoke so passionately about your curiosity. This sounds like something that was really important to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm one of those athletes that's always looking for something new and to be able to bring something into the repertoire. And whether it was in training or racing or practice racing, I was always striving for more. If I wasn't winning every race by 100 meters, I wasn't happy. I think that just, it really helped accelerate that learning process. And obviously having coaches like Belinda and Arthur that were so open to that style as well, coming from the athlete, that it probably wouldn't work with other people. And just be able to have that open conversation of, look, this wasn't good. What do you think of this? And what do you think if I tried this? How you reckon that would go? And obviously having their experience to be able to sort of lean on, just really helped me, especially in the youth sort of period of my career, to sort of accelerate that learning process and try and move forward.
Yeah. I should have mentioned earlier, Belinda Stowell, we've spoken about, an Olympic gold medalist herself.
Yeah.
I reckon it's an important concept to visit the difference of coaching, the different styles of coaching, because what you just described is completely collaborative. And I feel like probably for many years, almost through all sports, coaching was a whatever I say goes.
Yep.
I'm just not sure that works. And for me, I as I mentioned, I bring a teaching background. It used to be the same as teaching. Like, I'm the teacher, you'll listen. But I think that collaboration is critical to the development of not just athletes, but humans.
Yeah, totally. I think like as well, you both learn in those scenarios that, obviously the coach isn't on the boat with you, so they don't understand what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And they might miss a few things here and there. And so the fact that you can sort of, you can have these conversations and it's not a, you did that wrong or you did that right sort of situation, that there is this, open conversation around, well, this is what I was thinking and this is how it felt at the time. And maybe this would work on another day, but it doesn't work today. And just be able to sort of collaborate in that sense and have that open and honest relationship was super important.
Yeah. And it sounds like, which is probably no surprise, but trust. How important is trust?
Yeah, it's a massive thing. I think if you don't have that trust in your coach, that obviously they want the best for you, that it's always going to be hard to sort of get over those little hurdles and humps along the way. That maybe you just, again, that self-doubt comes in, or that doubt comes in around, is this person actually doing the best thing for me, and what are their intentions? And so you got to have that full faith that you've got your eyes on the same goal at the end of the day.
I'm just thinking, so like, I'm a control freak, right? And I have my schedules, my routines, or if I'm doing something, like I know exactly how I want this to go. And if someone says to me like, oh, maybe this would work better, like, and I'm working hard on it, but I'm like, that's hard for me to hear. Did you ever, and that's where trust comes in. Like, so I have to be like, all right, I don't think so, but I trust you.
Yeah.
Is that something that was hard for you? Because you spoke earlier on in this conversation about the control, because you're in an individual sport.
Yeah.
So you are controlling everything that's going on. What about when somebody like Belinda or Arthur said, well, Matt, I reckon maybe we could do it this way. How did you take that?
Yeah, with Belinda and Arthur, it was quite easy.
Okay.
Obviously I had that relationship with them from quite a young age. So I guess I probably grew up knowing their style of coaching, and they sort of, brought that out in me as well.
Yeah.
So that was quite fluid and quite easy to deal with. And I guess that respect was there at the end of the day, that
cool.
what they said was probably what needed to be said, whether it was good or bad. So there was that trust and that respect in them, that that they were doing the right thing. But if I think of coaches that, well, I guess like most of my senior career with Michael Blackers, we're in a scenario where we've got 5 athletes in a squad and he's looking after all 5 of them. And obviously majority of my career had quite a big rivalry with one of the other sailors, Tom, who went to Rio. And obviously was going against him for Tokyo. And you sort of started to have that doubt every now and again, that like, what sort of camp was he in? Wow. Was he a Matt fan, or was he a Tom fan? And obviously me being younger and coming through, and they had that relationship for longer, you sort of had that doubt, and that whether they were telling you the right thing or whether you were hearing what you wanted to hear. And that caused a lot of frustration at times.
Right.
And it took a lot to sort of deal with that and get over that at certain points. And when you're in the thick of selection battles for Olympics and stuff, it just sort of niggles at you a little bit that, well, is he telling him something that I'm not being told? So you got to have that fluidity and that respect and that trust in the coach, for sure.
That hits home for me, because again, something I'm personally working on, but that black or white thinking, right? What you just said, is he a Matt fan? Is he a Tom fan? What was it that allowed you to, I suppose, trust that he wanted the best for both of you? Like, how did you resolve that in your mind?
I think at the end of the day, I sort of, especially in the selection process, I had to understand that he was probably not saying anything to either of us, from the sense of trying to make it as equal as possible, and as fair as possible. And you just I had to sort of believe in that a little bit. Whether it was the truth or not didn't really matter. I just had to go and do what I needed to do, and believe that the ability was there to do it. So I think there was times where it just niggled at you, but at the same time it was just a negative thought, and you needed to like any other negative thought, accept it, deal with it, and move on as quickly as possible. Because
the narratives that we tell ourselves can be they can be positive, but they can be equally as damaging. That's crazy.
It was certainly the times as well when you're having a poor result or something that you felt those emotions more, and you just sort of, I guess, had to realize that, it's just because I didn't sail so well today, that it's not because he's changed the way he's coaching. It's just because you've had a crappy day and you're feeling frustrated.
And it happens.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with me, Matt. Like, I think that's invaluable as well. We've reached my 2 golden nuggets. Now, I call them that because I asked in maybe slightly different ways, but ultimately they're the same 2 questions to finish in this series. I told you about my passion to help people in a world which can be really confusing and confronting and a daunting world, especially for young kids trying to make their way in the world. What would you say to the kids listening and who will be watching in Paris, who are thinking, they look up there on the TV and they go, I want to be an Olympian? What do you say?
Yeah, I'd say dare to dream, definitely. It was obviously, that's what fired me up for so many years. It was just a dream. I had no idea how the pathway looked at that time. So I'd say just go and get it. If it's something that you believe in and you want to give a crack, like whether you make it or not, that's okay. I think that obviously ultimately if you're an Olympian, that's amazing. But I think the things you can learn by trying to go to the Olympics and compete for your country, whether it's at a state, a national, or an international level, is amazing. And the people you'll meet and the lessons you'll learn along the way is probably the biggest thing. Just dare to dream and take it with both hands and run with it when you get the opportunities.
It's awesome. It really is awesome. My most important question, this is special to me, because there's not a single person listening who this doesn't apply to, right? And you're somebody who I really admire for his outlook on life, which is why I've been so keen to ask you this. What does success mean and what does success look like for Matt Wearn?
Yeah, I think it's easy to look at results, and I've obviously been very fortunate in that aspect. But for me, it just means, like, especially in sailing, you're in this constant chase of perfection, and perfection doesn't exist in the sailing, especially.
I don't think perfection exists in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think to have that strive to try and get as close to that as possible is what it means to me, and that's what success is in my eyes. And I think just being able to come in at the end of the day from a day of sailing, or even just on a day-to-day basis, and have that sort of moment to myself and reflection on, if I met someone for the first time, did I give them as much time as they deserve? Or if I was in the gym, did I do what I needed to do in the gym? Like, it can be in any aspect of the day, and just be truthful with myself whether I gave it everything. And I think if I'm sort of doing that on a day-to-day basis, then I'll be successful, whether it's results or as a human.
That's unreal. Like, you are saying that, did I give everything of myself? But not just for sailing. You're talking about as a person in a relationship, and I'm not talking, yes, in a romantic relationship, but a friend relationship, a coach. You're saying, am I showing up? Am I doing the best I can? Yeah,
exactly. I think it's even just the simple stuff when, like, you see it more and more that people are happy to turn up late to things, or there's that social side of it, that with obviously technology and stuff, it's easier to get in contact with people and stuff like that. And I think just doing those small stuff where we turn up on time, you do your best. Like, obviously things happen and stuff like that, and that's understandable. But if you're doing your best to be punctual and give everyone as much respect as you possibly can, that I also feel that obviously it will come back when the time comes to you as well, in some way as well. So,
Matt, our paths crossed a few years ago, but I'm really grateful to have reconnected recently. I really am, and I'll give you the hot tip. I'm invested. I'll be watching every race in Paris, but I know I'm not alone. The way you go about life is so brilliant. We need more people sharing their passion and their kindness with the world. I really appreciate you doing that with me today. So thank you so much. Go well in Paris.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Pleasure.